Hey, y'all, I'm Shane Sams. Thank you so much for listening to my podcast today. For those who may not know, I'm a self-employed, location-independent, family-focused entrepreneur, and I make my entire living online. That was my dream when I started my business, but this podcast is not about me. I started this podcast to help you find success too by interviewing some of the biggest authors, influencers, and entrepreneurs on the planet. My mission is to unlock their strategies and tactics that my guests use to succeed so you can go out and find your success as well. Which brings me to my guest today because he is one of the truly influential people in my personal entrepreneurial journey. When I discovered online business and being an entrepreneur back in 2012, one of the very first books that I discovered was called The Pumpkin Plan by Mike Michalowicz. And I devoured this book. I can remember laying in bed and reading through this book, and it kind of had the flavor of the one thing. It was talking about how when you had an idea, like you can't just chase all the ideas. You can't water every seed. And it focused in on farmers growing pumpkins and these people who grow these giant like truck and car sized pumpkins. And the reason they do that is because they figure out which pumpkin sounds like the best one, which pumpkin looks like it's the healthiest, and they go all in with the pumpkin plan. They focus on that one pumpkin, and that's how they set the world record. That's how they win the competitions. They go all in on that one idea. And that's what inspired me and Jocelyn to go all in on our education idea, to build elementarylibrarian.com, to build ushistoryteachers.com, to build these super successful websites that we built, that we were able to build and sell and do all these amazing things with. We didn't chase every shiny object. We had our pumpkin plan. We focused on our individual ideas, and it made us successful. And then in 2014-ish, maybe early 2015, I saw Mike Michalowicz released another book. Now, many of you have probably read this book. It's called Profit First. I remember being one chapter in to Profit First, and I looked over at Jocelyn and said, this book is going to change our business. This book is going to change our life. Profit First is all about teaching business owners how to actually run a profitable business. You take your 15% or whatever your profit is, and you put that aside first. Then you have your owner's pay. Imagine entrepreneurs out there. Imagine being an entrepreneur that actually pays yourself. And hey, what about setting aside somebody for taxes? Because Uncle Sam wants his too. And then instead of running the business on the first fruits, you run the business on that percentage that's left. That's where you set your budgets. That's how you hire your people. That's how you grow. I immediately put Profit First in play and all of our money. I went to the bank and I tried to open all these weird checking accounts, and they thought I was crazy. I was like, no, I need a profit account. I need a tax account. I need an owner's draw account. I need an operating expense account. Then I need this and this and this. And I set up like 13 accounts inside of the back end of our bank. It took us like a month to set it up, but I was determined to get it going. I knew this was going to change everything in our business. And it really, really did. We have never truly worried about money ever since then. Every single 2 weeks when I sit down to do money, we're always profitable because the profit goes into the profit account first. And it's really given us a framework and a plan that we can use not only to thrive in our current business, but to grow and scale and take it to the next level. Mike's written a bunch of other influential books, from Clockwork to Fix This Nest, and he's working on a new one right now. We're going to talk about that on the podcast today. I had a great conversation with Mike. I was super blessed to meet him a couple years ago on his podcast, and now I'm happy to return that favor to him today. In this episode of the podcast, we're going to talk to Mike Michalowicz about how he is such a prolific writer. How does he crank out these amazing, high-quality books over and over again? I've been trying to write a book now for a year, guys. It's really hard to write a book. And over the last 7 or 8 years, Mike's put out 7 or 8 books. So we talk about his process, how he gets his books out, how he stays consistent, how he's prolific, and how he gets his book from his head to the market. You know, we're going to talk about Profit First and all the concepts within that book on how it can give you more time, how it can give you more money, how it can bring more peace to your life. I asked Mike a little insight too into what it's like to write a classic, write a book that's literally changing lives every single day all over the world. And finally, Mike's going to give us a sneak preview to his next book. It's not out for a few months, but we're going to talk about it today. It's called Get Different: Marketing That Can't Be Ignored. And as a special bonus, Mike is going to give us the most unique, useful, and maybe weirdest workout trick to get in shape you have ever heard in your life. And that's going to be at the end of today's interview. Man, I don't geek out much, but I am a Mike Michalowicz fan, and it was an honor to have him on the podcast today. I can't wait for you to listen to this podcast. So wherever you are, grab a notebook and a pen and take some notes. Pour yourself a coffee or a mason jar of sweet tea. Sit back and enjoy the show. Three, two, one. Mike Michalowicz, good to see you, man.
Good to see you, brother. Thanks for having me, Shane.
Man, I am pumped to talk to you because I have read so many of your books so many times that you're like, you speak in my head sometimes. I remember looking, like, I will go back to the beginning of my baby entrepreneurial journey, and the Pumpkin Plan came out like right about the same time that we got into online business. And that was my first spark into, we just need to focus on this one baby pumpkin. And we need to grow this big pumpkin. And that's what kind of led to everything we do now, man.
I love it. I love it. Well, thanks for being a supporter and a reader. I appreciate it.
Awesome, man. I got some great questions for you today that I want to talk about. Some people may not ask you all the time. The first one, I always love when I see somebody that seems to work with their spouse a lot. And on your social media and stuff, I see you and your spouse. Do you and your wife run the business together, or does she have her own thing that she does too?
She has her own little business. No, we don't run the business together, but I'm very fortunate that I and my team here have structured the business in a way that I spend a lot of time with my wife, and my kids, and just living life. Today I'm cutting out at 4:00, heading home to some contractors over there. I'm going to see what's going on, probably mess things up, and enjoy a glass of wine with my wife. So, and she's a sport too. Like, she's no interest in this business, and she shouldn't. But she's a sport that I can do stupid pictures with her and stuff and post on my social media.
Right. Yeah. You got pictures of tuxes and you're all running around like dancing together and stuff. What's this marketing campaign he's got going on here? Because me and my wife have worked together all these years, and it's hilarious. You do have to have a good spouse who understands what they're getting themselves into when they're married to an entrepreneur, correct?
Yeah. So yeah. Here's my analogy, because for my wife and me, this was both our first experience. I'd never been an entrepreneur before I got married. My wife and I were engaged, and that's when I said, I think I have an idea. And she's never been married to an entrepreneur. So what the analogy I've come up with is, an entrepreneur is like being in a race car. You're in the driver's seat, but they've ripped out the steering wheel, and all you can do is just floor it. But
that's a great analogy. Yeah.
But the in the passenger seat is your spouse, and they don't even have a seatbelt. So that's it. At least we feel like we can hit the go and stop. They got nothing. And so for our spouses, it can be just a terrifying and exhilarating ride.
In our entrepreneur journey, I feel like me and Jocelyn both have a gas and a brake at the same time, and we don't know which one's going to push what. So sometimes we're just spinning around, smoking the tires.
You're flooring it. She's jamming the brakes.
Other times we're just in reverse, going backwards. It's like we're trying to figure it out like a tug of war. Who's got the gear
I
shift?
can see that.
That's crazy, man. You're an awesome entrepreneur. You've done some amazing things. But man, when I think about you, I really think of you being a prolific author. Like, you crank out books, man, and like you crank out quality books too.
Dude, I got another one right here. I'm just finishing writing.
Dude, I'm telling you, I saw the pre-order for that. I'm excited.
I'm so pumped for this one.
I'm pumped to get it, dude. But like, you got the Toilet Paper Entrepreneur, the Pumpkin Plan. We're going to talk about profit first. Got to talk about profit.
You got it.
Clockwork and your next book, Get Different. All the stuff that you do. How are you so prolific? Like, I'm writing a book, sort of. Like, I got the outline. You know how it goes, right? But man, it's the most difficult process I've ever tried to tackle as an entrepreneur. And you're just crushing it, putting out books every year, every other year. Like, how have you become so prolific as an author? What's your process?
I'll give you the secret. To me, it is literally the most important activity I do in my professional life is to write, and nothing can stop that in my mind. Literally this morning, 6 a.m., I was writing. And to do this, I'm with other authors. So every weekday, 6 a.m. Eastern to 7 a.m. Eastern, minimally, there's a group of authors getting together and we're writing. And we just write. I produce in that hour 800 to 1,000 words. Most of it is garbage. But that means 5,000 words a week. That means 250,000 words a year. And that's a couple of books. That's in the off season. When I'm in the in season, like, this is just the completion of a season for me of writing this book. This is what's called past pages. It's just all the, I'm doing final proofreading of my own book.
Right.
And when I'm in the in season writing, then I'll write for maybe 5 hours a day.
Wow.
And then I'm producing maybe 4,000 to 5,000 words a day. And so now you can just see it really is a game of quantity. I remember like listening to athletes and stuff, like the best athletes, you hear everyone leaves the field. And these are pro athletes. And Jerry Rice runs another hour of sets, just practicing reception patterns and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, the elite go that much further every single day, not just once, but every single day. And for years now, every single day, 6 a.m., I'm writing, period.
Wow.
No other choice.
That's interesting because I have always viewed it. I think I've viewed this process like a project. Oh, we'll start it and we'll finish it. But no, if you're going to write books, like it is a thing you do. You used to, I am an author and I have to write the books or I'm not going to be able to finish it, basically.
Yeah, it's a vocation. It is a necessity. There is no alternative. That's how I see it.
So when you meet with this group of authors, is that in person? Is that on Zoom? Is that like friends?
That one's in Zoom. Group? Yeah. So we connected Zoom. It's funny. I also found there's a great way to get you into a room of people you want to connect with and simply to facilitate or organize an event. So there's some really established authors, a group of guys that I'm really impressed by. A guy wrote Atomic Habits, James Clear.
Oh yeah.
Don Miller, Story Brand, Ryan Holiday, some other guys. And I was like, ooh, if I could connect with these guys, this would be a dream come true. So I reached out to each one of them and said, hey, I'm putting together an event, costs nothing. I'll take care of all the logistics, everything. We just come and all we're going to do is share information with each other. And we flew, this is last year, we flew down to Don Miller's house and I'm sitting there and I'm just aghast. Like I'm surrounded by these people that I aspire to be 1/100th as impactful as they are as authors. And I'm like, I can't believe I'm here with these guys. But I can't believe I'm the one who facilitated it. I think that's an opportunity for all of us. It doesn't matter what level you're at. You can be with people at the next level and start behaving like them if you simply help them gather, because no one really wants to put in that effort.
Yeah, man. It's like Russell Brunson says, work your way in or buy your way in. But that sounds like both. I'll pay for everything. You all show up and we'll hang out and we'll do some work together, man. So you think it really is just like a quantity game. And that's why a lot of people do fail at writing those books.
Yeah, it's quantity. It's quantity. Most of the stuff I write sucks. I mean, it was written for the garbage, but the good few pieces I would have never discovered unless I got all that garbage out.
Yeah.
So every single day, just right.
How do you bust through writer's block when you get in the, like you sit down for your hour and all of a sudden you're like, like, do you just,
what do I write about now?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't actually really haven't experienced that much, but what I do is if I get stumped in the moment for something, I have a catch-all like Evernote type thing. It's not Evernote, but something like that. And it has hundreds of ideas that I've written, and probably thousands. I just go in there and say, what's the next one? And I'm on it. So for me, a writer's stump, once I hit it, I'm like, okay, I give myself 60 seconds to get started again on the next thing by just peeling out the next thing.
That's awesome. Yeah. I do that when I journal at night. Like, how sometimes you're like, you feel like your journal's got to be this deep thought that you're passing on to the generations, right? I used to think that, but now I sit down and I'm like, I woke up at 6.
Yeah.
I drank a cup of coffee. And then by the time I get to like noon, I'm like writing, parables from the Bible.
I love it. I love it. Man.
Yeah. So it's the same process. You just get it going when you get stuck and see how it goes, man. But let's talk about, I would say probably the most prolific book that you have is Profit First, because I want to brag on you a little bit, man. I read Profit First right when it came out. Right. Because because I'd read The Pumpkin Plan and I was like, Mike's got a new book. I'm going to get a new book. I'm going to check this out. And I read it like a chapter in and I looked over at my wife. And, there's certain books that you look back at and you're like, you can point to a point where you changed something specific. Right. Yeah. And man, I read it and I said, this is it. And I have not missed a Profit First moment every 2 weeks since 2015. Dude.
Oh, I'm so proud of you.
I have done and that people still look at me weird. My bank still thinks I'm crazy.
You got more effing money than any other clown.
That's exactly right, man. I never worry about money. I'm like, we got enough money. We're fine. Everything's going to be fine. And this is a little bit different question. Because dude, you wrote a classic. Like you just wrote a good book, man. Like it's starting to get up there. Like people are figuring it out. Like I talked to a buddy of mine named Aaron Walker, and he runs a mastermind group for 200 people.
I know.
Bought one for every single book. He bought a book for every single person. What does that feel like to know, like, dang, that book's going to outlive me? Those principles are going to go past me, man.
I wish I could define that, brother. It means everything to me. I'll show you something on my wall here. Let me move this camera. But
you're watching this on YouTube. Right, that's why you guys subscribe to YouTube channel, people.
Oh, yeah. So if you can't see it, it says eradicate entrepreneurial poverty. That's what I believe is my life's calling. I do believe it's God-given. And there's a whole long story how it came about. But when I get that feedback, that, Profit First changed my life and so forth, it blows my mind. I am so honored and humbled to be just this little nano element of someone's journey that will never meet me, never hear my voice, will never connect. But somehow with just written words, I was able to touch and impact their lives. It's mind boggling. And it also fuels me. It's like, dude, you got to turn up the heat. You got to write better than that. You got to do more of that. If Profit First could do this, every book should be doing this. Why am I not doing it? So it actually gets me fired up to write better. And I really do feel my newest book, as of this moment, is the best of me. Is the best of me. And we'll see how it works, if it's a flop or if it succeeds. But I know because of the success with Profit First that the next one's got to be even better.
Yeah, the bar is so high. Did you know you had written such a good book when you put it out there? Did you understand what it was going to do to people's
I knew the
finances?
idea was that good because my life had been so changed. Like, I wasn't worrying about money anymore. And I used to constantly worry about it. I couldn't believe it. I didn't know if people would resonate with it. There's so many books out there that are good, but there was a tipping point. There was a tipping point. And maybe it was a few years ago when I just noticed the volume of emails I was getting. It used to be like one here, one there of people saying, "Oh, your books changed my life." And it was like, "Oh my gosh, I got like 6 of these emails today." And the next day it was like 10 of these emails and 6 and then 12. And now I get probably one email every 15 minutes on average from someone somewhere in the world that says, "I've read Profit First," or one of my other books, but Profit First is the mainstay and it's changed my life. I remember when that moment happened. Like, what you see, there used to be a UPS commercial. I don't know if you saw this. Very funny commercial. It's this brand new company startup, and they put all this effort into it, and they're about to sell their first product. And the guy that owns the business clicks go live. Basically, his website goes live, and in the distance, you see one of the employees has a bag he's breathing into because he's hyperventilating. He's going right, and they sit there, and there's nothing, and you see the bead of sweat come down, and then blink, they get their first order, and they all go crazy. And then goes blink in the second order, then blink, blink, blink. And all of a sudden it's like 1,000 orders. And then you see that guy start hyperventilating again.
Start freaking out.
Yeah, how are we going to do this?
Keep going. Right.
Yeah. And that, like, Profit First, at first it was a celebration. Like, yes, this is working. And now it's like, oh my gosh, I have a responsibility, a major responsibility now. I got to step up.
Yeah, man. It really is. I've applied the principles. It's funny, like, the Profit First is, in a nutshell, it's your company profits first.
Right.
You get paid because that's important. Oh, by the way, pay your taxes because they will take the rest of it from you. And then you've got plenty of money to run your business. That's how I think about it.
Yeah, that's the essence of it.
That's the essence of it. And of course, there's so much more detail. You've got all the, like, how much you make and what you should do. And it's amazing. Yeah. That book is the one that comes off my shelf back here more than every 2 weeks. I just pull it off to make sure if I need to flip through it, I got it. Right.
I love it.
Man. But I've applied the principles of Profit First even to other parts of my life. Like that concept of, profiting, like what is my life in the grand scheme of things? Really, what is profit to me? It's time with my kids. It's travel and things like that. So even when we're thinking about our business, I was just talking to my assistant today, like, look, we protect these 2 hours, the hour before school and the hour after school, because that's my profit. Like, that's when I pick my kids up and take them to school. Right. And then owners pay, man. I mean, if I'm not having some time to my life for myself each day, because I like to read and I like to work out, and that's why I'm paying myself, Yeah. And then I even think there's that, like, even that tax concept, like, we all know it's like the get out of jail card. I mean, that's how it kind of works, but it's also like, hey, we have to contribute. Like, there has to be some part of you that's contributing to the society of whole function, dude. So even from a time standpoint, we've been able to adopt those principles of Profit First to make a difference in other parts of our lives besides just the bank account.
I was invited to speak with not-for-profits on the topic of Profit First, and they said, we want you to speak because you're popular in this community, but we're not-for-profits, so there's a disconnect. And I said, well, let's just change one word. Let's change it from Profit First to Purpose First. And literally by that framing, they're like, oh my God, this whole system works for us. So I love your application of it because it does work in all facets. It's prioritizing the most important thing, making sure it's addressed, and everything else seems to come in alignment.
Yeah, man. That's great. Why, after Profit First, you wrote Clockwork. right?
Yeah.
And I'm assuming because you suddenly needed a bigger team, right? And you had to figure all that out. But like, where did the idea for Clockwork come from? Was it just to build a team and an efficient organization, or was there time freedom involved? Like, what was the inspiration behind Clockwork, not necessarily the process?
Yeah. Yeah. So I get a lot of reader feedback. I'm blessed to have people that I can email a list of readers who will respond to me, engage. And so whenever I release a new book, usually months after I release it, it's like, okay, did it serve you? And what's the new problem presenting itself? And so some people are like, wow, this product first system is a game changer. I'm more profitable, but now I'm not efficient. I'm making all this money, but it's all, I'm carrying it on my back.
Mm.
I concluded that the ultimate form of poverty is actually not financial poverty. It's time poverty, where we don't have availability for life itself, our family, what we cherish. And that's the ultimate cost. So that's why I wrote Clockwork, was how to create a business that can run itself. The systems are in place, that the right people are in place, but the system does not sap you of that valuable time.
Yeah. Do you think passive income is possible through a Clockwork style business, or is that kind of, I've had this discussion with a lot of my friends lately, like the concept of automated business, passive income, set it and forget it. Like, do you think it's just possible to, is that really just to manage your freedom, or is it, or that's what the business is for, like the Clockwork system? So you can have those, the hour before school, the hour after, the reading time, you're tucking them in, or is it possible to automate it in a way where it definitely could eventually run itself?
Yeah. I think absolutely. There's passive income that can be created through Clockwork. I mean, we have to define passive. So passive, one level is it doesn't need my involvement, but it may need employees' involvements, and it may need active sales activity. So maybe that's not passive, but it doesn't need me. The ultimate level is it doesn't need anything. It just is a revenue generator, almost like interest on your money.
Yeah.
And I think at a certain point, passive income, if it's just totally ignored and left out there, it may not continue forever, because the system you invested in maybe no longer is serving it. So that stock investment you made that kept on churning money, maybe that company is a great company, but they sold out and the stock no longer exists. Or my book, like Profit First and so forth, it generates royalty income, month in, month out. But there will be a day that it's no longer applicable. And I'm hoping it's thousands of years from now, but maybe it's only a few hundred days from now. I don't know. So I think it would be a folly if I simply said, well, that one's done. So I keep on maturing it and observing all the elements of my business. And I think for me, I've achieved the level of at least passive income that I want, in that my business generates money. I don't need to actively do things to make money, but I do actively do things that support the overall health of the business, and are the things I love to do, which is what we're doing right now. I love talking shop, and I love writing books. And that brings me such joy. I foresee myself continuing to do that until my last breath.
Yeah, man. There's two quotes that always like, because when you first learn about entrepreneurship in general, that's kind of like your goal. Like, ooh, I wonder if I can start a business where I can go play golf and whatever, do whatever I want. But then like two quotes in the Bible, it says, without a vision, the people will perish. Right. I love that quote. I always remember, like, if anything, like that's really what you're doing. You're casting vision in your books and on conversations and things like that. And then I don't remember where I heard this the other day, but it was actually probably about 2 months ago. I heard this quote on a podcast. The guy said, all money must be managed. And it was talking about real estate or stocks or something like that. Like, all money must be managed. Kind of thought about that. Like, yeah, that's true. Like, you can set up systems to give you the freedom when you want and where you want, but you got to keep the vision coming, and you got to keep you got to manage it. Right. And maybe you turn that over to your kids someday for them to manage it, but they need that vision and that leadership. Right.
Yeah. We have to act as a steward toward,
that's great.
Toward what we possess. And money is a form of possession. And if it's left out to pasture and ignored, who knows what will happen to it? And it's not like you hear these stories of people that accumulate wealth and then don't know how to manage it going forward.
Yeah, man.
I found at least for me, the ultimate method is find what I love to do, lean into as hard as I can, make sure it's monetizable, but then lean into it more. And it's just, I thought it required like ridiculous hours. If I wasn't working 12 hours a day, I wasn't producing. And now I'm like, oh, it's not 12 hours a day. It's just, where's my heart? If I lean into my heart 4 hours a day or 8 hours a day or whatever it is, I'll be getting that joy and it'll be generating income, but I don't have to work and compromise the rest of my life.
Yeah, man. And I found too, like when we've started building the first teams we built were, what would be a kind word for myself? Disasters, absolute catastrophes. Like, hey, no, there's no self-care going on in this.
I love that. Yeah.
Right?
I was a train wreck.
It was a train wreck. It was terrible. And then I realized, like, okay, well, I love, like, my job right now is to write emails to my list and talk to people like you and talk to people in my community. That's it. That's what I do. Yeah. But it took me 5 years to build it that way. But like, I started hiring people that liked not the jobs that I didn't want, but the jobs. Like, I've got an editor right now. She's going to hear this when she edits this podcast. She loves editing so much. She could do it 12 hours a day. She just loses herself in it.
That's her joy. Yeah.
And that's her joy. Yeah. And like, so I was like, oh, wait a minute. If that's the task, I just have to find someone who loves that task. Yeah. And I was really excited because we just did evaluations this quarter, and everyone's like, I can't think of anything I'd complain about. And I'm like, this because we're all doing. Now there's holes because there's things that nobody likes to do.
Sure.
I got to hire more people for those.
Right.
And if you just not only bring your joy, but try to get everybody else in their joy seat, big things start happening, man. It's crazy.
I found when I was researching for Clockwork, a mistake that many small businesses make is they try to find one person to fill all those empty seats.
Yeah,
and to your point, Shane, your editor gets joy editing, but maybe not in paperwork. I don't know what it is, but often we get joy in just a few things, extreme joy. It's better not to hire one person and have them do things that they don't like to do. I found it better to fractionalize, meaning to get many people, maybe part-timers or something, that they all have their little elements of joy. And so instead of my next hire being one person, it may be 4 people at a reduced number of hours, cumulatively equal to one full-time person, but they're all in their field of joy. And so they all excel.
Yeah, man. I had a buddy of mine the other day. He was, his marketing director left, and he was hiring a new marketing director, and he had 3 really great candidates, and they all had different strong points. In our mastermind, we were like, what if they all worked for you? And
bring all 3 on.
And he's like, I'm hiring them all. And he hired them all. And then he built this little mini team. And not only now is he more protected, if one piece of the team leaves, you just hire that piece back. But they're all going to be like, this dude's really good at this. This person's really good at this.
Yeah.
So you're like protected more from it. Well, tell me about the new book, man. Tell me what you're working on. I want to sneak. I'm gonna pry a little bit. I want to know the sneak peek. What you're working on right there.
This is the past pages. Actually, I don't even know how long it is. I think it's a 270, 280. So how this came about is I found that most entrepreneurs struggle with marketing, and they don't think they are. They say, and I've surveyed over 10 years, people with the same question. I say, what's your biggest source of leads? And constantly they raise their hand and say, oh, for me, it's word of mouth, or, oh, my clients refer me business. And I saw it as such a common theme. I was like, there's a problem here. It's wonderful if your clients refer you business because it points to your exceptional service. They think you're recommendable, but it also means that they're the ones in control of your marketing. Like my clients.
Right. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. So I'm like, oh, that's their problem. That's the icing, but no one's focusing on the cake. The cake is throttleable. We can turn up or turn down the lead flow. So how do we do that? That's the essence of effective marketing. And then I found to do that is we have to do marketing that is distinct and different from how our current market is perceiving and receiving marketing. Basically, get different, do different, be different. I'll give you an example. There's this concept called habitualization, meaning when I receive information and you and any human being receives information, very quickly we categorize it, and we know in the future it should present itself again. Is that nonsense we can avoid or something we want to consume? And so I share a personal story in here. You probably experienced this too. I remember the first time I got an email that started off with, "Hey, friend." And the very first email, I'm like, oh my God, there's like this friend out there that calls me friend. Oh my God, they're such good friends. How are they doing? Which mystery friend is this? And then very quickly I noticed, oh, it's crappy marketing. So the next email I got that said, "Hey, friend," I was like, is this a marketing message? By the third one, they're all my trash. I don't even look at it. It says, "Hey, friend." I know it's not for me. That's the problem of habitualization. Something very quickly gets categorized as relevant or not relevant. But the first "Hey, friend" was unique enough to catch my attention and engage me. If it was truly of service, that would have won me over. And so what I teach in this book is how do you invent the next "Hey, friend," or something that's just distinct enough they'll get noticed and be compelling and attractive, not marketing swarm, but actually compelling to the right people, directing them to do something. So the framework is get different, attract, and direct people and do that over and over again.
That's awesome, man. That's good. Now, when are you going to be, when do you think you'll be done with it?
Oh, well, it's done. This is basically the proofreading phase. It will be out September 21st. I had to get this back to my publisher in 2 weeks. And then once this final copy is sent to them, it's off to the races.
Well, I cannot wait to get a copy and promote the heck out of it.
Oh,
every other book you got is absolutely amazing. And I got one more question for you. I know we got to go pretty soon, but I'm on a fitness kick right now. And I was, my team always makes me like a prep thing, and they got like pictures from your social and what you're doing and everything else, to make sure I know what I'm talking about and, all that good stuff. And dude, you're in shape. You are just in really, dude, you are fit. Like, thanks, what do you do, man? Do you run? Do you lift? Like, how do you stay so trim and slim, man? How do you do that?
I found, I'll give you my secret. It's funny. So I work out 5 days a week, religiously. And I switch between cardio and weights. So today was a weight day, but here's the secret I found. 7 years ago, I said, I got to work out all the time. I've always known I should, but how do I do it? I started putting my sneakers on the top of my toilet seat. And this is the key. This is the key.
That's amazing. Yeah,
when I wake up in the morning, I have to have sneakers in my hand. That became transformative because I didn't put on my shoes. I go down to the gym and I'm working out. I'm
doing that tomorrow, dude.
Do it. My wife was pissed. She's like, what's up with this? I'm like, I'm going to transform myself. And she's like, all right.
I'm going to live like 10 more years if you can just put 10 more years on that toilet, man.
When I take my shirt off at the beach, you're not going to be embarrassed as my stomach flaps out. And that stuff. I said, but the sneakers have to stay. And she's like, all right.
Oh, man. I love it. So basically, ride every day, work out 5 days a week, put your shoes on top of your toilet. Mike Michalowicz, man, I appreciate you. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
Appreciate you, Shane. Be well, brother.
All right, y'all. That is all the time we have for this episode of the show. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found today's podcast valuable. If you did, could you do me a favor? Go subscribe on Apple Podcast or Spotify. And if you could, please leave me a 5-star rating and a review. I read every single review, and I cannot wait to read yours. After that, go tell a friend about the podcast and have them do the same. I'd also love to connect with you on social media. You can follow me on Twitter at Shane_Sams. Feel free to tweet me at any time. And if you want to learn more about how I became a self-employed, location-independent, family-focused online entrepreneur, and if you want to find out how you can do the same, head over to ShaneSams.com. That's ShaneSams.com, and learn all about my online business coaching community. Head over to ShaneSams.com and learn all about my community and my online business coaching program. That's all I've got, y'all. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time, remember these words I live by. Dream big. Take massive action. Be consistent. Be prolific. Be relentless. And do whatever it takes to take control of your life and change your family's future. I'll see you next time.